Welcome back to At Sixes and Sevens. I am Tommy.
And Rio. Today we're diving into the tragic story of Judith Barsi, a talented child actress whose life was marked by both brilliance and unimaginable pain.
Now, this story is a heartfelt one, for sure. So if you've got your tissues, I'd recommend getting some. We might show a clip or two, of her acting career, but we'll get into the deep dives and everything a bit later. But just as a kind of a slight introduction to her life, Judith herself was born on June 6th, 1978 in Los Angeles, California, to Hungarian immigrant parents. Now, her father, Joseph Barsi, and mother, Maria, hoped to create a better life in America. Judith was their only child, and from a very young age, she displayed an extraordinary talent for acting, singing, and even performing.
Judith began landing roles in commercials, showcasing her charm and unique voice.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, who didn't want to be Elphaba? I'm definitely an Elphaba. Are you a Glinda or are you an Elphaba? That is the question right now.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what the difference between them is, apart from Elphaba I know has scabies and Galinda I don't know.
If you watch Wicked?
No.
Oh, okay, that's probably why then.
Yeah.
Oh well. We'll have to get into that a bit later.
I do want to watch it, but I want to watch the movies when the second one comes out.
Oh, that's true, yeah, makes sense. But either way, as Judith, the thing is, we're going to get into how she became famous, which kind of links into it. She wasn't in Wicked, unfortunately. As Judith became a household name in the late 1980s, the pressure just began to mount. She appeared on popular shows like Elf and Family Ties, which, anybody watching or anybody listening know of those shows, then shout out to you, you're old. Often playing roles that highlighted her bright and bubbly personality.
I think you don't realise that the 80s weren't that long ago. Like, people that...
40 years.
Yeah, that's not old. Like, I'd say old is like people that are 80 or 90. People that were raised in the 80s are like...
Well, they're older than we are.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like,
but while her star was rising, the darkness at home grew. The pressure of her budding career compounded her father's issues, leading to complex, often suffocating family dynamic. She was expected to perform not just for an audience, but also to win her father's approval.
I don't think is like a nice household, feeling to have if you can't win your father's approval.
It was her dad's kind of trophy. She was a trophy child, basically.
Making him the money so he can pay for everything else.
Yeah. So, if she'd done something wrong, he would lash out at her, which is horrible. No.
I believe he was very, trigger warning, he was very abusive.
Yes.
Towards like the end, wasn't he? Is what I've kind of read up on and heard.
Physically abusive, and that's how it ended tragically.
It's got to be like torturing, isn't it? It's like mentally like messed up in your head. Sorry. But let's focus on the good stuff for now, and then we'll go into the grungier stuff. Her kind of most famous role and most significant role was an Anne Marie. I don't think I've ever watched this.
You mean as Anne Marie?
Oh, as. Well, yeah. In a film called All Dogs Go to Heaven, which sounds like a very... Movie. Yeah, I've never watched it and I don't want to because I'd probably cry my eyes out. I believe we'll show a clip soon, but it's a film released in 1989 that became a beloved classic.
Yeah.
In this film, she plays a young girl who befriends Charlie, a dog trying to earn his place in heaven, which, if you just even read that tagline, you're like, oh gosh, okay, this is gonna mess with me. Especially if it's in the 80s as well, like Disney kind of style. Who knows? I'm not sure who it made by actually. But her portrayal herself added warmth and depth to her character, making Anne Marie unforgettable.
It's a tough watch. especially if you love dogs. You know, if you watched Marley and Me and you cried, then this is like
I know I did.
a hundred times sadder kind of thing.
Oh,
But yeah, Anne Marie, she's an orphan. It's sad, and Charlie's like her best friend. But Judith recorded her lines for All Dogs Go to Heaven in early 1988, during a time of great joy mixed with, underlying turmoil. Her performances were a mix of innocence and emotional depth, capturing the essence of a child who understands loss yet still holds hope.
which for that age, like, well, around that time anyway, to understand the complexities of the emotional depth, but like, going through all of the stages of denial, grief, whatever it might be, that is an incredible it's not even talent, it's more just tragedy, because it's
I
you
think
went through a lot in life.
It's not a thing that we should be like, oh wow, that's incredible, she was talented. It's a thing that we have to look up of. It is so sad that a child has to understand those things at that age because of what she's been through. No child should be able to understand those feelings or go through whatever she was going through without acting, because she was doing it without acting at that point.
Yeah, she might have just even been just being herself in that moment, but you don't really know and you can't really tell. But we'll talk about her upbringing, I think, because it's good to know the backstories and how she grew up. And we'll start with her father. So Judith Barsi, he had a troubled background to start with. So he fled Hungary during the what was it? The 1956 revolution, I think.
Yeah,
it was, seeking safety and a better life for his family, of course. Which, in that time, why wouldn't you?
Understandable.
But yeah, I'd do that. However, adapting to a life in America proved difficult for him as well, leading to feelings of inadequacy, I'd say, and frustration.
He even though it's the great American life, the new beginning, freedom and all that, it is so fucking hard to start a life in America. And for these people that have done it, huge kudos to them, because they've started from nothing and they've made a new life for themselves. But especially back then, going over to America, they would have nothing, fleeing from Hungary during the revolution. They'd leave with nothing and just start from, zero. So it must have been hard. He was probably stressed as shit. Trying to provide
working 50-hour weeks just so he can get a paycheck at that point. Yeah, no.
But once again, that does not advocate for what he done and what kind of person he became.
Not at all.
Yeah, there's feelings. He's spiraled into severe issues with alcoholism and violence. This background likely influenced his inability to cope with the pressure of parenting, ultimately turning him into an abuser, the abusive father and husband he was.
Classic alcoholism, violent, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be classic. It should be eradicated at that point, but unfortunately it still happens. And especially back in that time, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of stress, and it just kind of hits you at that point. Well,
it's that typical, white vest wearing, beer belly, Stella drinking, man.
I mean, some people would class that as a Chad, but that's where the kind of the toxic male cliques and everything comes in. But we're not going to talk about that. But I think we should go talk about her mother, though. Her mother was a beautiful woman, and the relationship between Judith's parents was kind of destined but also doomed from the start. So Maria was a devoted mother and tried to protect Judith from Joseph's aggression, but she kind of found herself in a precarious situation. But, she often felt torn between wanting to keep her daughter safe,
yeah, of course,
trying to maintain her marriage and making sure that he's not gonna do something that will probably affect the family in the future.
Because when he's probably lashing out on Judith, Maria's trying to stop him, but then it gets to a certain point where he takes the anger onto Maria. So she needs to find that boundary where, neither of them get abused or try to calm him down, but you can't win with them.
No, you really can't, which is a shame.
Reports indicate that Maria initially believed that love could overcome Yusef's darker tendencies. We know that never happens, but as the years went by,
it's the hope, isn't it?
Yeah, it became painfully clear that the violence and control only escalated. It got worse, leaving both Judith and Maria in a constant state of fear. Whenever he'd come home, they'd be terrified that he's going to lash out if he had a bad day. Or whenever they would come home, they'd be terrified that he's going to lash out because he had a bad day.
It's living in a constant state of like paranoia.
It's like walking on eggshells constantly.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. It's worse than eggshells at that point.
Yeah.
You're like treading on full-on spikes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you can't get around it. It's just some days will have worse days than others, but most of the time it's a worse day. So it's honestly so strange. And God forbid anybody going through that struggle. Like, we're here with you, and we support you.
You're scared of every single thing you do. One stupid thing, like you do something by accident, you will knock over a glass, it won't even smash, you'll just knock over a glass and it'll make a noise. And here comes the alcoholic father marching into the room, being like, what the fuck did you do? You're like, oh, I'm sorry, you petrified. And then he lifts his hand and whacks you, because of something stupid like knocking over a glass. And every single small thing you do, if you sneeze, for example, you're scared that they're not going to like that and then they're going to hate you. Yeah, it's horrible because the amount of people that go through that, it's
terrible.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah, well, this links into it. So Judith's success kind of like came at a massively steep price. So out of the front and out of kind of her exterior, she was celebrated in public. All of the attention she was getting, all of the fame, all of the fortune she was getting, she obviously was celebrated and loved within the public. But then when she had turned to home and went to her mum and dad, she kind of felt isolated, which I believe, you could understand. Her father's kind of abusive behavior often meant that she couldn't invite friends over. She couldn't do anything else. She couldn't go outside. She couldn't, it was very strict and there wasn't a lot that she could do.
Yeah.
Which left her alone with all of her thoughts and, even worse, her fears.
It's like being a circus animal at that point. Like, all she done was work, right? Go do acting, be on screen, make money for dad, and when you get home, you're just by yourself. You're locked in a dark, lonely room. As a child, keep in mind, she was a child.
She doesn't get paid. She doesn't get anything. It's
like, literally, she was 10 years old when she died. And, you're going home to hoping to spend time with family and loved ones, to just being all by yourself and not having anyone to turn to. Like, imagine being a young girl, literally yearning for companionship, but being trapped in a house filled with tension. That isolation, compounded pressure she felt to succeed as she believed, achievements could show. She felt like it could mend her destroyed family life. She felt like her doing all of that could somehow make her dad accept and love her and show the love that she needs and deserves. So she worked harder
trying
and harder.
to mend a broken relationship and a broken kind of marriage on, like, kind of just pinning it on a 10-year-old child it's the worst thing you could ever imagine, because they can't fix anything, they're not going to do anything. If anything, you have to look after them. So why are you pinning it on
Yeah.
a child who's, going to get success and they're going to be famous and all. No, it's not giving you hope. At that point, you might as well finish the job and, just divorce or something, at least something like that to make it better for the child.
Yeah, and it was like so hard to do that back then. And
Massively.
for everyone listening, you've probably realized that myself and Tommy are very like down toned today. Like we sound very off, and we genuinely do not know what half the time what we're going to say is, because this Judith Barsi case, it does not sit well with me. Any sort of case doesn't sit well with me, but this one especially because of the type of case it is. Half the time I'm going to be lost for words on what to say, and half the time I'm going to go quiet because I know that if I speak, I will feel physically sick or cry.
Yeah, it is an emotionally tolling story, and I've read up on it, and I've watched some YouTube videos as well. It's, even for me, like, I'm speechless at like the events that occurred, what happened. Even you can't even fit it into a short amount of time because of how in depth everything is, and there's so many kind of branches that kind of lead off into so many different questions, so many different answers which aren't revealed to the public. And it's like, it's interesting from a psychological point of view. It's like, what was going through their mind, blah blah blah, all the major questions where everybody, but actually going through that is the worst pain, fear imaginable.
Because most of the cases that we talk about is, somebody getting murdered in a random act of violence, or somebody going missing and us not knowing what happened. But here we know exactly what happened, and we know the most horrible fact is that her own father, the person that is meant to be there and protect her from everything,
flesh and blood,
literally, that her own father could do that to someone so innocent and someone you're supposed to cherish. Yeah. Oh, anyway, let's continue.
I think we should go back to All Dogs Go to Heaven, because there is an important.
It is her final thing. It is what we're going to talk about most.
It is. But I'm going to focus on Burt Reynolds. So Burt Reynolds was the dog. He voiced Charlie. And he had a special bond with Judith during the production, because obviously you had to be in a booth with her, you had to, the conversations back and forth and get to know.
You have to make grow some sort of bond when you're acting. If you're gonna, especially if you're gonna be sad on screen about someone passing, you have to kind of have that emotional bond with them. In order to be able to
just emotionally numb. But he often described her as a bright light with a remarkable talent, which, their relationship themselves went beyond co-stars. It was like a mentor role, offering encouragement and kind of guidance into the industry, and advice. Kind of like a fatherly figure, but only in the kind of advice and the mentor role, basically.
Yeah, like he could probably tell that, something was wrong, but he couldn't just tell what. So he kind of took her under his wing. Especially Burt Reynolds being an experienced actor at that point. He, seeing young talent, he wanted to protect her and make sure that she gets the right care, like mentoring,
and not manipulated or ruined. Yeah, no, because you know what Hollywood can do to people.
Absolutely, yes. But after Judith's tragic death, on the 25th of July, 1988, Reynolds was heartbroken. He had finished recording his lines, but was unaware that this talented young girl, who he cherished, would no longer be there to share in the film's success with him.
The only person who would benefit from that success is the dad and the mum. Well, mostly the dad, probably, but she didn't get to see how amazing, obviously, the film turned out to be. She didn't even
Yeah.
get to watch the movie, I believe,
No, no, she
which is
didn't get to
really, really
the green
mental to think about.
the red carpet, the release. What's it called? The
Opening night.
premiere. Yeah, the premiere.
Yeah, premiere. Yeah, didn't get to turn up to any of that.
Yeah.
But Reynolds had to return to the studio to complete his work whilst learning about Judith's passing. So he had to, well, understand and learn the news that his co-star Judith kind of passed away.
Mhm.
And it was a massively emotionally like kind of challenging experience.
Like, imagine going back to the studio, knowing that the line you're about to record is saying goodbye to her. Well, her saying goodbye to you, because in a movie, Anne-Marie Judith says goodbye to Charlie, Burt Reynolds, because Charlie's about to pass away and, Charlie's about to go to heaven. But now it's turned into Burt Reynolds saying goodbye to Judith for the final time.
Yeah, because he didn't know what that would be his last, and it's I think in that point he struggled to deliver his lines just because the massive amount of weight of loss that was heavy on his heart.
Yeah, apparently, like, it took numerous takes. I think it was like in the 50s for
Don't blame him, honestly,
to get it right. Listening back to the clip, which we're about to play in a second, you can hear the pain in his voice, and knowing that he was recording without Judith by his side, that emotional weight adds a haunting layer to the film, and once it's released.
I think let's just take a moment to listen to a clip listen to this clip, where Judith's voice, it just brings Anne-Marie to life.
Charlie.
Yeah, it's me. How you feeling, kid?
Okay, how are you?
Ah, I come to say goodbye.
Where are you going?
Just on a little trip. Listen, Squeaker, I want you to do something for me, all right?
Uh-huh.
I want you to take care of Itchy. Just while I'm gone. You got a home now, and he doesn't have anybody.
Don't worry, Charlie, I will.
Great. Well, goodbye, little buddy.
Oh, Charlie, I'll miss you.
Yeah, I'll miss you too, Squeaker. Now, you go to sleep, huh?
Charlie, will I ever see you again?
Sure. Sure you will, kid. Goodbyes aren't forever.
Then, goodbye, Charlie. I love you.
Yeah. I love you too. Oh, Squeaker. I'm sorry. I'm so very sorry.
Charlie, come home.
Oh, fuck it out. That's
That really does hit. Like, I physically got goosebumps then.
yeah, I got
After
teary-eyed
understanding
every
it.
time I listened to it.
Let's just give a moment for Rio to just breathe and get his tears back in his eyes.
It's the fact that at the end, when you hear him say, "Oh, Squeaker, I'm so sorry."
Yeah.
That was unscripted. That was him genuinely saying that he's sorry for what happened to Judith.
I think it was more the when he said "I love you," like you could tell that he was just like, "Oh shit!" Like that punch of emotion, like that raw power.
Like hearing her voice, like it's both beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time, knowing that is the last sentence that she recorded. It's a poignant kind of reminder of the talent she possessed and the joy she brought to those around her, all whilst facing her own internal struggles at home. You know, as a child, she'd always do her darnest best to record the best she can. I don't know how many times I said best there, but fuck.
No, it is. We know. Well, I know what you mean as well, because hearing that in such a different light, and obviously understanding the story of what happens, it really does kind of make you understand that she was so talented and she possessed like so much talent within her that people don't actually realize how much of a star she actually was.
Yeah.
The kind of the impact itself of her death, I think it sent massive shockwaves through the entertainment industry, her town, her community, kind of everything around it. Like kind of many colleagues and friends expressed all their sorrow, sharing the stories of her laughter, all of her kindness, kind of, like I said, going back to it, that light that she brought into Bert's life, into their lives, into everybody else's lives as well.
Yeah, especially like in the movie industry, you know, and whether animated or not, she was probably the talk. Everybody was talking about, oh, have you heard about this new uprising star, Judith Barsi? She's in this, you know, movie coming out, and then all of a sudden, she's no longer. Like, everybody must have been talking about her in Hollywood, and so everybody must have been affected by this at the time in Hollywood, and everyone would have been heartbroken, and it's still affecting people to this day. But the tragedy also prompted conversations about the responsibilities of parents and guardians in the entertainment industry. You know, Judith's case highlighted the need for vigilance when it comes to the welfare of child actors, because they're often, you know, kind of forgotten about, and, you know, you trust the parents. But in that kind of industry, you kind of need to keep an eye on the parents even more, because they'll get, you know, money hungry or fame hungry, and they'll forget.
You don't want to let everything get to their head, do you?
Yeah, they'll forget about basic parenting.
Yeah, they'll forget at that point that they are parents and that is their daughter. They more of it see it as like a money machine.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They just see it as like, oh, well, they're making me money, so they can do what they want, and then it starts to go into neglect.
Yeah.
Which obviously you don't want as a child, for sure. Her kind of Judith herself, the tragic story of what happened, of course, has been used to raise awareness about child abuse, and the importance of kind of intervention, which I think is a great thing. I mean, obviously, it's terrible, obviously, what happened, and, you know, we never wish it upon anybody.
But it's good that change has taken place.
Exactly, yeah. It's been used to kind of raise that awareness and be like, this is what can happen. This is what we need to kind of sort out. And from that, various organizations dedicated to child advocacy reference her story just to educate the public about recognizing, you know, what the signs of abuse might be, the necessity of protective measures, and kind of what you can do to spot it, what you can do to help it, what you can do to kind of like avoid or stop it as well.
It's essential to remember that the effects of such tragedies can last for generations. Judith's story serves as a painful reminder of the vital need to ensure that children are safe, you know, that they are supported and that they are heard, because a lot of the times we kind of turn a blind eye when it comes to kids. We look at, you know, them with their parents and be like, oh, cool, the parents are there, that's fine. But you need to look at the, you know, the deeper kind of side of it is, okay, the parent's there, but are they being a good parent? You know, if that child all of a sudden flinches because I, you know, lift something up, like it's been happening on TikTok.
Oh, I've heard about that one as well. Yeah,
it is
that
horrible.
whole case is messed up.
Yeah, it's literally cases upon cases to this day where a parent does something simple like lifts something up and a child flinches with their entire body. Now, fair enough, flinching is a great reflex and it's a reflex that you need. However, a child should not be flinching like that.
Should be not subjected to anything like that at all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know,
if you know, you know.
If you noticed something, if you are out there and you notice something simple like a child flinching or a child acting weird on an emotional side, you know, like not crying when it's supposed to cry, because children are supposed to cry when they hurt themselves. But if a child isn't crying and is kind of, you know, acting tough,
nonchalant and tough, yeah,
check on the kid. You know, don't interrogate the child, you know, whatever. Just, you know, do what you're supposed to do. But if you feel like something is wrong, then report it. There's nothing wrong.
The
with
authorities
reporting
know about everything. Yeah.
Like CSPS, like Child Protective Services, yeah.
Childline, yeah.
Report it to them.
There's so many
and
other
if
people.
they find something, well done. If they don't, you tried. You know, you'll never get into trouble for reporting something that you think is odd or off. You're better safe than sorry.
It's also, but then again, it is the factor of the fear, isn't it? Is what will happen if they find out, and everything obviously goes on behind the curtains. What will happen when I get home, or if they know? It's, you know, there's who can you confide within to actually tell this story, which is the scariest part of it.
Yeah.
But after Judith's tragic death, Maria, her mother, was left to pick up the pieces of kind of what would be now her shattered life. The loss of her only child was obviously an excruciating pain that would haunt her for years to come.
It's, you know, Maria initially faced immense public scrutiny and personal guilt, as you would, because, you know, she's thinking, how did I not see this? How I could have prevented that? How could have I prevented it? You know, the feeling of guilt that she shouldn't be feeling. The burden of this loss was compounded by the grief that engulfed her. Not only is she grieving the loss of a child, she's also facing media and getting abused by media at that point, you know, asking about tens of thousands of questions. And also the fact that she's got 10 million waves going through her head of how could she have protected her daughter from her father's abuse.
Yeah, I think in the aftermath of what happened, Maria kind of like sought out for counseling just to help her cope in any way with this overwhelming grief, this overwhelming sadness that she was feeling. And she struggled to kind of find her place in that world that was, you know, completely devoid of joy. You know, you would be after losing your daughter.
Yeah. She probably felt empty inside at the same time. She was feeling those thousands of different emotions, and I can't even begin to imagine what she's feeling.
Unfortunately.
But there were reports that she moved away from LA, you know, seeking solace and quieter surroundings. Many believed she needed to escape the memories of the life she had built there, you know, including her aspirations for Judith. You know, she probably went around Los Angeles every day, and everything she's seen just reminded her of her daughter. So I do not blame her for having to leave.
So not only did she have to relocate once from, I believe, was it Hungary as well? Did she also come from Hungary?
I believe so,
yeah. She had to move again because of another timeline event, which massively changed her life. But what we don't kind of see about is her legacy, or Judith's legacy in particular. Because it compels us to kind of advocate for vulnerable children. her life and death kind of urges to create safe environments, ensuring that obviously no child has to suffer in silence or fear from whatever it may be it obviously other people, other children, parents, family, could be anybody like that.
You know, and as we said earlier, it is crucial that we listen to children and take in their experiences seriously, because even though we think, oh, they're kids, they don't know what they're talking about, they absolutely do. And, you know, Judith's story, whilst tragic, it can inspire change and encourage conversations around child welfare, and protection. You know, it's hopefully it sparks that little piece in our brains to listen to children and actually take them seriously. You know, one tragic loss, it takes, you know, a horrible incident like this for people to actually start listening.
It does, which it shouldn't happen. We should listen as soon as possible. But if it takes, you know, that realization and that understanding to go, oh shit, something's up, then, you know, eventually it'll kick in. But then we can inspire change, like we said, and encourage those harder to have conversations. But going back to Maria, which is her mother, she began kind of participating in support groups for parents who had lost their children. So like a grieving counselling kind of AA support group, but without the AA.
Yeah.
Connecting with others who understood her pain, and obviously the sacrifice that they have to make. These communities provide her with a sense of belonging during just such a hard-hitting time.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the best thing to do during that kind of time, is to turn to people that have experienced the same things as you, because, you know, you all might have a piece of advice, but when you put it all together, you actually learn to kind of cope and you help each other cope. So I get it. But over the years, she gradually opened up about her experiences, you know, emphasizing the need for awareness about child abuse. Her voice became a part of the conversation surrounding children's safety in the entertainment industry, which is
a massive kind of accomplishment, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. It's an incredible thing that she's done. But once again, why did it have to take for such a tragic loss before something gets done?
Why couldn't have something been sorted as soon as possible? Like,
Exactly.
It shouldn't have evolved into, you know, a death, which is honestly a massive shame for the industry, let alone Maria.
Yes.
But speaking of Maria, I think let's update the listeners on where she is. And today,
maybe let's not dox her, but let's just give her
no.
a life
We're not going to
update.
dox her.
Yeah, let's not say
she
where
lives
she
right
is.
fucking here.
So for those wondering where she lives, it's 1839 C Street in
the
Ohio.
FBI has your location. Her IP address is yeah.
I wonder whose IP address she just gave out.
I don't even know. IP addresses are, you know, usually the same for most people anyway. But
fair.
Today, Maria lives a much quieter life, thankfully. Whilst her pain obviously never truly goes away,
Yeah.
I think she's channeled her grief into advocacy work, kind of only speaking at events focused on child welfare, which again is a massive accomplishment, and obviously a personal and it's a massive thing to do. Going
Absolutely.
through all of that pain and then being an advocate for, you know, all of these events.
It's not like she's went through the pain and then just forgot about it. She's owned it. She's using it to her and everybody else's what's it called? Advantage. That's it.
Yeah.
And although she is not in the public eye as much as before, her story serves as a reminder of the importance of vigilance and compassion in protecting children.
Yeah, and that, again, we cannot, what?
Be grateful enough for.
Yeah, you don't understand how much actually goes through to protect the younger generation until you witness it firsthand. Obviously, working maybe in education or something, you don't know. It's knowing what the procedures are and how things are kept in place, which that was all started, or at least given help.
Right, brought to life, yeah.
Yeah, brought to life, exactly, by what happened here today. Wait, yeah, well, what we're talking about anyway. On the other hand, you know, let's get into the darker side.
The father, yep.
Exactly. Joseph. Not really, it was Joseph.
It's Yusuf. Yusuf.
Joseph.
Yusuf.
Oh, okay. Joseph. I thought it was Joseph.
Joseph
so
is the English word, however,
oh, so
like
Yusuf,
Hungarian.
okay.
So, Yusuf, the accent on the O is that U. Yusuf.
Yusuf. Okay, right. Anyway, her father, Yusuf, faced a different reality after the tragic incident. And following Judith's death, you'll never guess this, he was arrested and charged with murder. But the legal aftermath was complex, so we're not going to go into that.
Yeah. Surprise, surprise, he got arrested. I'm glad, actually.
I'm glad. Yeah, massively.
I'm so happy. Even though he didn't last long in prison, and you shall soon find out why. Yeah, he was charged with, Judith's murder, rightfully. But in the years following the tragedy, Yusuf struggled with his demons. He faced a long history of alcoholism and mental health issues, which contributed to his abusive behavior. This pattern of self-destruction led him to a downward spiral.
And led him to jail. Whoopee! I'm glad he's behind bars.
Yeah.
Or is he?
No, he died behind bars.
Yeah, he died behind bars. He's probably still in the prison as a ghost. That would be a good episode of At Sixes and Sevens. Visiting his ghost in jail.
Just to find out what drove him to do that. What fucked up mind made him do such a horrible thing.
And then he'd probably haunt us and kill us. Yeah, lovely. In 1989, though, let's go back in time. Just a year after the death of Judith, Yusuf took his own life. So this is going back to it, and obviously why he didn't survive long behind bars was because he took his own life. This end and this death left many questions unanswered, and a community grappling with the horror of kind of what had transpired. So he couldn't really tell them because he went to his grave with all of his knowledge and everything that he did.
And, most of the time that is a good thing. Sometimes ignorance is beautiful. Not knowing what really goes on in the minds of killers and people like that. That soulless person. Sometimes not knowing why they done something is good. But then again, deep down, everybody wants the answer. Everybody wants to know why. Why?
This crushing grief had no remedy kind of thing.
Yeah.
Shout out to anyone who knows what that means.
We'll never find out why he done it. But at least we know that he's not living a happy life that he did not deserve.
He was miserable.
Yeah, and his death meant that many of the underlying issues that contributed to Judith's tragic situation were never fully addressed. There was a profound lack of understanding of the complexities of mental health and abuse in families during that time. So people didn't know why things were happening. We don't have a great understanding nowadays, but never mind back then. Back then it was even less. Mental health wasn't a big thing back then that people looked upon. You'd get thrown in the loony bin for signs of any sort of mental health issues. Maybe not even issues, differences.
Yeah, complexities.
Yeah, people wouldn't study mental health, but instead they just kind of ignore it and, not try and understand it.
It really is a massive kind of shame itself.
Yeah.
And this whole story, this whole past of the Barsi family, reminds us that pain. I like saying this kind of phrase. It reverberates through families and communities. Like, it bounces off everyone's minds, and it's always lingering. So both obviously Maria and Yusuf faced consequences. One through loss and grief, and then obviously the other through tragedy and despair.
Yeah, and it's so unfair that Maria had to go through something like that just because Yusuf was a dick. I don't know what to call him. Like,
Well, I do, but I cannot say that.
Yeah. I don't know what to call him without being too non-PG.
Yep.
Yeah,
We need to keep
horrible.
it somewhat PG.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's just a cunt, at this point.
yeah, that's the word I was going to use. I was like, oops.
Yeah, so was I.
He was a see you next Tuesday.
Yeah. I seen a TikTok yesterday, and it was a kid give her dad a card. I know her uncle a card, or I don't know, our uncle or dad, and it was like a nice drawn card, and it said CUNT, right? It said cunt on it, and they're like, wait, what? And she's like, yeah, it says see you next time. It's for see you next time. And there the family's like pissing themselves laughing, and this little kid's like, what? Like, I don't know what it means. And you're like,
That's
oh, it's so sweet, because the kid's trying to be
of the
cute.
child, calling them the worst swear word possible.
I love you, you're a cunt.
You're right, can't how you doing?
Yeah. Anyways, their story serves as a chilling reminder of the importance of recognizing signs of distress and the need for intervention in family dynamics.
Which is a massive thing nowadays. It's a massive stigma, which is obviously, it is needed.
People should never feel like they can't intervene.
No,
maybe don't intervene personally. Don't walk up to someone.
Maybe as well.
Don't walk up to someone and be like, oh, you're being a bad parent. Intervene in different ways. Intervene in a legal
Why are you being a bad
ways.
parent?
Yeah.
Ask the questions. Yeah, report them.
Or speak to loved ones. If you know the family and for example, the grandmother is a great person, be like, by the way, I seen this and this happened. Do you know what's happening, kind of thing? Like, bring it up to concerned family members.
Because they might have a bit more knowledge and depth into why it's happening, but yeah.
And they've got the privilege of being part of that family.
Exactly. So they're the one who has to intervene, if anything. So you've helped and done a great thing.
But always report it to the authorities as well.
Oh yeah, massively. Yeah. No, that is the top thing you should do. But yeah, as a broader impact, I think Judith's case has sparked discussions, and a lot of discussions really, about mental health awareness and the importance of support systems for families dealing with trauma, which I believe is the greatest thing that anybody can do, because quite obviously recently and throughout obviously COVID, which we're not hoping happens again, and we're not going to talk about, mental health has become this massive stigma, and it is a problem which needs to be kind of obtained and resolved, because it's not going to get kind of resolved for a while now, but we're trying our best.
Mental health isn't getting better. You know, people aren't getting better. The only thing we can do is raise more awareness and find ways to help people.
Exactly.
People should never, ever, ever, ever be ashamed of mental health issues, their mental health struggles, or any sort of mental health they're going through, you know. And I know it's not comfortable to talk about, and I know a lot of it is you don't want to talk about it. But at least try and get the help that's available. And I know there's literally only a fraction of the help that people need available. However, you know, if by raising awareness, you know, nowadays is the best way for mental health, is to make people aware that mental health exists.
If you or a loved one, per se, or even a friend, is ever in need, there are so many charities, there are so many online, obviously, chat forums. There's a lot of things out there to help. You got the Samaritans, mental health foundations, the NHS, you got Mind. There's so many things online and so many people you can talk to.
And if you're not comfortable with talking to someone face to face, or, you know, not comfortable with people knowing who you are, or you feel scared about seeing a therapist, there are hundreds upon hundreds of licensed therapists online that you can talk to through video call, phone call, or just online chat,
Text
like
message.
text chat.
Yeah.
There
Don't
are
ever be afraid.
so many websites that offer the help that you may need.
Yeah.
And Maria's advocacy has highlighted the need for open conversations about child protection and the resources available for families in crisis.
At Sixes and Sevens, the podcast is sponsored by mental health.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we really are at this point, because we both go through it and we understand the struggles and complexities. But yeah,
and everybody listening goes through it, because there's not a single person on earth that doesn't go through mental health. And if you say you don't, you're lying.
Oh, you do.
Yeah,
you do more than you think.
One day you wake up happy, one day you wake up sad. It's all mental health.
But overall, Judith Barsi's legacy is one that underscores the importance of love, protection, and vigilance, especially in the lives of children.
You know, both her mother and father's stories are part of a larger narrative that reminds us to, you know, foster safe and nurturing environments for the youngest among us.
Thank you for joining us as well, as we reflect on the tragic yet poignant story of Judith Barsi and the amount of lives affected by her loss.
Until next time, let's continue to raise awareness, advocate for change, and strive to protect children in all parts of our communities.
Especially children, but also yourself. Look after yourself. Go buy that chocolate bar. Go have that bath. Go get up and do the laundry. You know? We love you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you are okay.
But most important of all, love yourself.